This is episode 27 of the Dying Scene Quarantine chat show that I call Both Laugh. And folks may know you from Western settings. They may know you from Hey Chels. And now you've got your own solo thing. Ricky Schmidt, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
One of the things that I started doing when we started doing this little talk show like this is really wanted to catch up with people who were doing things over quarantine, especially people who had tour plans canceled and things like that to try to stay active. So you were, where were you when the world sort of shut down? Hey Chels was just about to go on the road, weren't you?
We were. Hey Chels had just put out our first full length. It's called Everything Goes. It came out earlier this year. And then,
it's really good too. People should listen to it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. We were supposed to do a tour on that. We were going up from like here. We're from San Diego. We were going to go from here in San Diego up to all the way up to Vancouver, and then kind of back and through. We were going to do like Boise and Denver, and kind of scoot back in a little bit, a couple states in or whatever. But we were really excited. We were going to go to a lot of cities for the first time because Chels is pretty new.
Yeah.
But we tried to hold out, like when the first lockdown happened and everything was happening, like it all kind of happened so quick that we were like, all right, let's wait, because like at first, it was like they were doing like the 200, no gatherings over 200 for like venues and stuff.
Right.
Like, well, Hey Chels is going to be fine because none of our shows are going to be 200 people or more. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're like, we're going to be, let's hold out. And we held out, and I think like 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, or just like, yeah, there's no way this is happening. So, but we were kind of holding on to, maybe this happened so quickly, and maybe it'll go away quickly too.
Right.
And that did not happen.
Because that was going to be what, like April, maybe end of March, beginning of April, that you guys were initially on the road.
End of March, early April. Yeah. So
was it up to you guys to cancel those shows, or did venues say, look, we can't have a show here or whatever? Or was it kind of...
it was right when I talked to a few of the spots, and they were kind of we were thinking the same thing that, like I just explained to you, that a couple of the venues were, and then the people that were helping us put the shows together. And then finally, I think like I talked to a couple, and like people, it like became very evident that was like, then there was no way it was going to happen, and it wasn't safe and all that. So we were like, all right. And as soon as like I contacted everybody was like, yeah, we were gonna hit you up the next day and tell you that we can't do it. So I think everybody was kind of in the same place with that.
I feel like it seemed for a while that people were just going to try to punt till maybe the middle of summer. So was that sort of like, once you guys decided to cancel, was it, okay, we're not going to do this? Or was it like, let's try to reschedule maybe for June or September? Because obviously nobody knew that it was going to be like this. But
yeah, I think in my head I was thinking that, but like also, obviously, as soon as things were safe again and everything reopens, we're going to start going back out again. But I honestly I kind of just stopped. I mean, we book our own tours and stuff, and actually, like I do most of the booking. I do the booking for Chels, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's it's a lot of back and forth with people, and not only just on my end, but on other people's end as well. It's a ton of work. So like, I don't even like the idea of even setting one up without being 100% certain that we're going to be able to fulfill it and go through with it. Like, I don't even want to mess around with it. So we haven't. But with that being said, as soon as everything reopens back up, we will be going back out. I just don't want to try to like I do. I have a couple friends that are like already setting up tours in Europe and stuff for like early next year. That's great, and I hope that it really works out for them. But I'm a little more weary to set anything up right now until we know for sure.
Yeah, just the longer it goes on, it seems like the longer it's gonna go on. And
yeah.
I have friends. I'm in the Boston area, and I have friends that do booking at shows around here, and they've talked about getting requests for like, hey, do you have a Friday night open in January or in February? And they're like, really? Like, it is way too early for that.
Yeah, and I get it too. Like we all miss it so much, and we want to, and I'm sure a lot of people are like thinking like, hey, we'll set this up, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But also, like I said, to me, it's like that's so much work for yourself, or the person who's booking it, and also the individual promoters for the shows like have to put in so much work to do that. And if you're not certain that it's happening, or you put in all that time and effort, and then it just gets canned at the end, it's like doesn't sound like fun. But I do understand like wanting to be proactive and try to be ready to go as soon as as soon as everything opens back up. But just who knows when that's going to be.
it does feel a little bit like everybody's going to be vying for the same shows. Because I don't know how San Diego has fared, but I know that Boston is down 9 venues now that have closed and that aren't coming back. And we don't have that many to begin with. So everybody's going to be vying for the same shows.
Yep, it's true. And yeah, we lost some good ones. A lot of the staples, we got some staples that are going to be okay, but yeah, we've lost a couple. We lost like Bar Pink, which is a huge one that's been around for a long time for like rock and roll music in San Diego. What else did we lose? Oh my gosh, there's a bunch more. I don't know what I'm right now, but there are a bunch more. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping like some of my favorites, like I've talked to. Like, are you familiar? Have you been to San Diego before?
I've not. No.
There's a really like cool bar that's been home to us for a long time. It's called Tower Bar, but that's a small little independent bar that's been a huge staple for rock and roll in San Diego. They seem like they're going to be okay, but a lot of people have been dropping like flies. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, like, you know, like the big venues, like the observatories and all that kind of stuff's going to be around, and that's cool and everything. But it's the smaller places that you know keep everything glued together and gives us a place to do the thing, you know. So.
Yeah, the places that actually foster a scene, like the reason that San Diego has a music scene, the reason that Boston has a music scene isn't because of the Live Nation venues. It's because of O'Brien's and Great Scott and the Middle East and places like that.
Did you guys, is the Middle East gone now?
So that's a different story. Middle East, we don't play the Middle East anymore. There's like sexual assault stuff that went on with the owner of the Middle East and things like that. And so it's been, this is a weird thing to get into, but it's been sort of like grassroots, people just saying we don't play the Middle East anymore. And then so if somebody books a show at the Middle East, but they're from not around here, word kind of gets around to other booking agents or labels that, yeah, you really should probably book that show somewhere else to move it. Middle East kind of fell upon that, which sucks because that place was, I mean, legendary.
Yeah,
I practically lived there for a long time. So
we came through there with the Swingin Utters.
Yeah,
that was the only time I played there, but it was we had a good time there. It was a fun show. But I mean, but if they're having that kind of stuff going on, then I guess good on Boston, the Boston community to move things elsewhere, because no one needs that shit around. We don't need that shit around. So.
Right. And for a while, it seemed like there were enough other venues that could kind of absorb those sort of mid-cap shows. Upstairs at Middle East was 200, maybe 170, and then downstairs was, I forget, 600 or 700 if they banged it out. So it is sort of enough other places for a while to kind of absorb those shows, although there aren't really now. So I don't know what's going to happen, unfortunately.
I wonder too, though, we were thinking, like, I wonder, since all these places are, and it sucks that we're losing all these places, but that means that there's going to be empty bars or venues sitting around. And I'm curious to see if people are going to swoop in and like be like, okay, I'll get this place and keep it going and keep doing music here, and not to take away from the fact that like someone who's dedicated their life, I'm sure, to that venue that lost it, like that sucks. But I'm curious to see if someone else kind of like will pick up where it left off, so to speak, like in general with all these venues that are closing. But who knows?
Yeah, we had a venue called Great Scott. I don't know if you ever played there. I don't recall, but there was like a 200 cap venue, and it was a bar. It was a cool place to play. It was a little divey, but it was pretty awesome. It had been around forever. The landlord decided they were going to put in a Starbucks or a cafe or a bank or something like that there. So everybody was like, well, fuck, where's Great Scott going to go? Well, there's a pizza place that closed down the street. So they're essentially just moving the whole venue, all the staff and whatever, to this old pizza place. So it'll be roughly the same cap. They'll kind of do the same pattern on the floor like they had at the old Great Scott, which had been there forever. So you're right. Things like that may happen.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
That's cool though, yeah.
So let's talk about Palm Trees. This is a really cool album. Congratulations. You must be,
thank you.
would hope, stoked with how it came out, because it's really good.
I had a lot of fun with it. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So thanks though. Yeah.
How did it come together? Because this is obviously your first solo record like this. So where did the decision to write these songs for yourself and not for Western settings, or not as Hey Chels songs, but just to focus on your own thing?
I kind of wanted to start doing after we did another year of the last record with Western Settings, I was kind of like getting into doing some stuff that like was kind of different and weird compared to what we were doing. And we did a little bit of that like with the last Western Settings record, I feel like, but also it was, I just wanted to get away from it and try this different stuff. But, and I was going to do like an acoustic record, but after talking to a couple friends, we're like, we don't need another person with an acoustic guitar, even though I know a lot of people that are really good with an acoustic guitar. I'm not that good on an acoustic guitar, but you know, I was talking about Tyler Gibson. Hi, Tyler, if you're watching this when it comes out. But he was like, man, just do a full band record. Just do your solo thing as full band. And I was like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna do a full band. So, and I can kind of halfway play like enough all the instruments that go in a band traditionally, like in a rock and roll band. So, and sort of play. I mean that when I say that. But anyway, so I started just demoing songs out like that, and like with electronic drums and stuff, and then building the record that way. And then I started like mid 2019, and then when COVID hit and everything, I ended up having a lot more time than I thought to really knock it out and get it done. And then I asked my friend Shane, who the guy who did the drums on it. He's been my good friend forever, and I've always admired him as a drummer. And I asked him, like, pretty last minute, actually. I was like, hey, man, you want to come in and do drums for me on this? Because I was planning on doing it myself.
Because you started as a drummer, right?
Yes. Yeah, when I was a kid, I started drumming. Actually, I drummed all the way up till I was like an active drummer up until about 2010, 2011.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's kind of when I switched to playing bass and singing and doing that stuff. But yeah. But anyway, so Shane came in and he agreed to do it, and it was super fun. And like we did very minimal stuff. Like I sent him the demos without the drums on them, and he kind of like redid them his way. And then he came down like 2 days before we went into the studio. We just like spent 2 days practicing and running through them and like tightening things up, and then went in and he just killed it. Like he did all the auxiliary percussion, like the reelo and like the tambourine and the clave and like all that stuff is Shane actually playing it. So he just like, we were in the studio for a week straight recording that record, and half of the time we were in there was just drums, and then the other half was me trying to like get everything done. But it really came through, and I think it was like that's one of my favorite things on this record is the drums, and I love it because Shane just came out of nowhere and just like he was just like, I'm gonna do this on your record, and it's gonna be 100 times better, and I was like, awesome, and he just did it. So it was, and we had a blast in the studio too. It was fun.
When he starts talking about adding other percussion instruments and things like that, does that kind of make you go, wait, like, are you hearing the same songs I am, or did you just kind of dive in and go with it? He
sent me back one song. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one demo, and it was Hot Summer. He sent back Hot Summer, and it had like all that crazy like bongo stuff and on it. And I heard it, and I was like, this is awesome. I was like, Shane, do that on all of them. And he did. Yeah. And he just like just add stuff like that on all of them, and he did. And then I asked him, because he added all that like with his computer, and then I asked him what instruments they all were, and he gave me a list, and I went out and like got them all. And then he actually played them on the record. So.
Oh wow! So it is like live instruments. It's not like computerized. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Did that change the songs to you? I mean, like obviously you go in with a certain image for what your album's going to sound like, but when he starts adding stuff like that, did that sort of change your approach to the songs too? Did you change guitar parts or melodies or things like that based on what he was doing?
It didn't do much. Like the songs kind of stayed pretty close to what they are, but there were a lot of things that we tightened up once like Shane came in, where it was like even little pauses. And then I forgot to mention my friend Tyson, our chicken from Dead Enemy. He was producing it, and that was kind of, Tyson was actually there. We can go back to this in a minute, but Tyson was there, a little earlier in the process. But anyways, when Shane came in a couple of days before, Tyson was there too. So it was me and Tyson and Shane in the room, and we did tighten up a lot of the things, and like, we'd been listening to the demos with the auxiliary percussion and stuff. So like we had that in mind and did make some adjustments to like just kind of tighten everything up right before going in. So I haven't listened to the demos since we finished the final thing, but I'm sure if I went back, it'd be pretty funny to see the little differences and stuff. But
Were you initially writing on acoustic? I know there's only one acoustic song that really made the album, but were you initially writing on acoustic, or were you writing on electric, or do you write on bass too? That's another question for later on. But
I do mostly acoustic writing, and then I did do some this year where I was just in my room. I have like a little home studio thing, and so I did actually start doing some like an electric guitar. I think there was a couple that might have started with bass lines, but once I get like any kind of structure or anything, I hash out the melodies and lyrics and singing just on an acoustic guitar, or it starts that way and then turns into the full band song. But yeah, but I definitely lean heavily on using the acoustic for writing.
Is that the same for Western settings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because like you said, there are a couple of bass lines, like A Cult comes to mind. The last song, Names, comes to mind, where they have sort of a groove to them. So it almost sounds like you sort of started with a bass like a bass groove, and then kind of built from there. But I wonder how that works when you are able to write on 2 or 3 different instruments, sort of what takes over.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember on Like a Cold how that started, but it was really funny. Like a Cold actually started, so that was the least finished song when we went to the studio, and like originally, like I had Shane and I couldn't figure out what to do with the drums on that, because I had just like this really straightforward like doot dot doot dot doot dot doot dot like punk beat kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was like really like quiet though, and I had this like weird idea for that song to be like just this weird abstract song. So it was gonna be like this just quiet like fast punk beat, like almost like a skate punk beat over that song, and it never went into that calypso thing that happens. Yeah. It never went into that, and when we got to the studio, that was the last song that we recorded because we were so unsure about how it was going to end up, and it was the least like finished. So it was the last song we did, and actually the engineer Brandon, the guy we recorded with, he Chicken and Shane and I were sitting there like talking about it, trying to figure out what we were going to do with the song because it wasn't sitting right. And then Brandon turned around and was like, "What if you guys like did some like weird calypso thing with it?" And then we like figured out that bass line and did that, and we were like, "That's pretty cool." And then just like a half hour later, it was tracked, and we were like, "Cool." So I was like, "Wow, that song just came out of nowhere." But it did start off with that first bass line and the like little tiny sounding guitar thing. So I can't remember which came first, the guitar or the bass.
Yeah. But do you like writing that way? Do you like switching it up and not necessarily just focusing on acoustic? Because it gives a song like that, for example, a different sound than probably if it had started with just a riff you wrote on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I totally, you're right. And we were trying to do weird things. I remember I did saying to Shane, we were trying to do like weird different things with this record that we hadn't done before. So it was like we were trying to figure out just how to create like different vibes and stuff than what we were used to playing. Like, you know, we've always been loud rock and roll guys, but just play like straightforward punk. But let's see. I forgot where we started with that question. I'm sorry.
you know what? I did too. No, the difference in writing songs and not just like how that song ended up is probably different than if it had just started with a riff on an acoustic guitar. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
writing differently or knowing that you're going to do things a little differently, it seems like that's a thing that was really a focus on this.
Yeah, we did try to. We went out of the way to do that for sure, and make it fun and different. We wanted all the songs to be dancey. That was the thing that was said out loud. My friend Tyler Gibson, the same guy that I was talking to, that told me like when I was discussing whether or not to do an acoustic record or full band. When I sent him the demos for this record, he was like, "It reminds me of a fucked up beach or a fucked up Pet Sounds." And I was like, "That's awesome." And I was like, and I thought that was like the hugest, coolest compliment anyone could say to me. And then I turned around and I went, said to Shane, I was like, "Hey, Tyler just said this about the demos. We should really lean into that."
Yeah.
So we did a little bit. I said the same thing to Chicken. I was like, "I think that's cool. We should really lean into that." And so there's like all these, we ended up doing like all these crazy like Beach Boy oohs and the harmonies and stuff all over the record. And just, try to do weird different things in all the songs.
Yeah, there are some really cool little harmonies and melodies that go on in the album that keeps it from being just a punk rock album. You know what I mean? It's You're Mean, I think, comes to mind. Maybe Social Me too. It's funny that when I got to those two songs in the reverse order, obviously on the album, I got to Social Me the first time I listened to it. I said, wow, it's not usually that like the 9th song on the album becomes your favorite song on the album. But I said, this is a really cool song. And then You're Mean came on, and I said, oh, I actually like this one better. And then Names came on. And I think that Names is, particularly for this time, I think Names is perfect. Like, I think that the sort of tone that you got, both musically and lyrically, is like perfect. And so to have like your 3 favorite songs be the last 3 on an album, it never happens like that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you saying that. That's really cool.
So we'll dive into the song Names, like I said, because I think it's really, I think you got the tone right lyrically. And I feel like it's probably a hard thing to actually get right in sort of how to write about these times and write about the protests and write about police brutality and all of that. And so how long did it take you for that to come together and to really know what you wanted to say about it?
That song was tough. You're right, and I especially it's weird, like making a record this year during while all this is going on, because sometimes it feels like you're distracting from other important things that are going on or whatever, and I think that's a very real thing. But
yeah.
I knew that I wanted to have. All I knew when I started that song was I wanted to have a song that, in some way, shape, or form, showed support for the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that was happening. And I was like, if I want to do something, then I would at least like to acknowledge that and show support with it, or in some way, shape, or form. And so that song was the day after, I believe it was the day after George Floyd was murdered. Jackie and I woke up here in San Diego and looked up. We're like, are we? I was like, we got to be protesting. Like, there's got to be something going on in San Diego.
Right.
It was like 9 in the morning. I'm laying in bed. Jackie was brushing her teeth, and I was like, I looked it up and I found one. They were like, yeah, people are gathering downtown at the Hall of Justice. There's going to be a demonstration, and so I was like, Jackie, you want to go? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, cool. So we went down and ended up spending the whole day there, and like it was really powerful and cool. And we marched around the city with everybody, and that was, so that's kind of like that whole first half of that song is about that day. It's just pretty much recounting that day.
Yeah.
We just went out. But and then the end was just that. It's just the say their names, which is when one of the biggest things that's being chanted out there, and I just that's a very powerful thing, and I thought it was a good chorus, and it was supposed to be my tribute, my support, the show support for the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's all I wanted it to be, and I hope that it came across that way. I know that it feels that way when you listen to it.
Yeah, I think it did. I think that there are people who, and not necessarily in this scene, but sort of like music at large, that write music trying to capitalize on situations like that. And so it becomes sort of a tough tone to get right, so that you're not just giving lip service to an idea, or you're not just trying to capitalize off an idea, but that you're actually trying to explain and convey an idea. And so sort of like when you said it's tough to write music and put out music during these times, I've had the same conversation internally and externally about even doing an interview show like this. Like, I stopped for a while because I said, well, like, why does anybody want to listen to me? Like, there's more important shit out there.
Right.
But I think
there's other people need to be heard and seen. Yeah.
But there are also people who are able to bring a really good and interesting perspective and get other people to sort of absorb the message differently. And so I think it's important that people put out art, whether it's music or film or print material, whatever, that sort of highlights the situation right now without without sort of trying to just make money or profit off it. You know what I mean?
So yeah, you're totally right. And yeah, I think that's a thing. I hope to God that I did not come across that way. And I promise I haven't really made any money off this thing. But no, I totally understand what you're saying. But so that means a lot to me that you're saying that I didn't come off that way. So.
Yeah, no, it came out. Yeah, I think it's I think tonally it's the right sort of message that folks on our side of the situation should be projecting. So I think you did a really good job with that. So not just that it's a kick-ass song too, like and the bass groove in that song is pretty cool too, but so musically it's a great song, but then lyrically I think is spot on. Nice job.
Thank you.
It sounds otherwise like there's a lot of sort of conflicting themes on the album. There's sort of the wanting to fuck it and throw everything and just go away, but then there's also like this sort of hopeful quality to it as well, to a lot of the songs on the album. Like you just want this shit to be over and so we can get back to the good stuff. Is that sort of, am I picking up on themes correctly, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's there's a couple, I think there was only 2 or 3 songs that were written before this year struck. So, and I think 2 of those songs don't really make total sense with this year, but like I think the rest of the songs are very much so like in theme with pretty much anything that like you or I or anybody really would be probably felt or thought at some point this year.
Yeah.
Most of them, like, but yeah, it is. There's some weird, like the Social Me song, the one that you said when you heard that, one of my friends told me he's like, that should be your opening song. Like it's really catchy and everything, but the whole sentiment of that song is that it's a song about social media and like how much I despise it and just pretty much like who really gives a shit about this stuff anyways, kind of a thing. And that's supposed to be the sentiment, but the chorus on it was literally just no one gives a shit. The more you know what I mean. I was like, so it might take someone a minute before they figure out that I'm not just saying that, because like, I was like, I don't really want to lead with that sentiment at the beginning of the record, just being like, I don't know, this is kind of just not. I don't know. It's not the greatest thing to start with, I feel like. You know what I mean? To lead in with. But
No, that makes sense when you put it that way, actually.
Yeah. But that is what that song's about. I don't know how easy it is to pick up on that. But
I'll tell you, that's a fun song. The chorus is so catchy in that song. It's not bubblegummy, but it's like it's a catchy sing-along sort of chorus. And so I have found myself singing along to it like while I'm cooking dinner in the house. Oh, no one really gives a shit. And I'm like, I should, like, I have a 12-year-old in the other room. I should probably dial that down. But it's so catchy. Like,
yeah. I told my brother and my sister, who both have children now, so my uncle to their children. But I just tell both of them, I was like, yeah, you're probably not gonna be able to show your kids this record until they're a lot older. And my brother laughed, but yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, it's definitely. I think I curse on almost every single song in this record. It's a lot, which was
Yeah, I mean, my attitude towards that is they're going to hear it anyway, and really, it's the intent behind the word, and it's not the word itself. The words are only as heavy as the meaning that we give them. Whatever, she can listen to. She's almost 13. She'd probably be swearing at me sooner rather than later. So.
Yeah.
As you mentioned before, you worked with Chicken again on this album. He did the last couple Western Settings things, right?
He did. We were lucky enough. He helped us out with Old Pain, and he produced. So he did the role of producing Old Pain, and then also Another Year, and then I reached out to him when I started nailing this record down and asked if he wanted to be a part of it, and he said he was into it. So I was like, awesome, man. So yeah, he's great. I mean, was there anything in particular you want to know about it?
So how is he to work with? I have this sort of, I've never met him because I think I missed Dead to Me the only time they came around, like this decade, through the Boston area, coincidentally also at the Middle East. But I have like this, because of the Dead to Me thing, and they're sort of like this iconic band, especially because they went away for so long. But between both him and Jack Dalrymple, and I've gotten to know Jack a little bit through interviews and whatever over the years, but I've never spoken to Chicken. I've never come across him. How is he to work with? I have like this sort of vision of who he is in my head, like this, he's like this enigma. And I feel like you guys were really one of the first bands that he actually produced that wasn't his own stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
We were. It was us and GFMK.
Oh,
And
okay.
you're right, but you're right, Chicken is completely a total enigma. He is. But he's also he's such a good person. And he's super fun and he's super sweet. His wife, Rico, is super sweet too. And he's just a super talented guy. And, it's crazy. I don't know what a producer looks like other than Tyson because I've only worked with Tyson.
Yeah.
I haven't worked with other producers.
Yeah.
But he's I feel like he went above and beyond. I don't know if other producers do everything that he did, but like he would anytime I was working on a song, I'd cut it down, I'd send it his way, and like he'd listen to it and then like get back to me and like or I'd send him.
I couldn't hear you there for a second, but you're good now.
Or I'd send him the stems to the songs, and he would work on them or send them back. But he was very present and always there, and like throwing my ideas my way and stuff. Or if he heard something that was like not sounding right, he'd let me know. But super awesome to work with. And then like I said, he came down a couple days before we went to the studio, and actually like me and Shane and him sat in the room and with guitars and went through them, and then he was there every day at the studio when we were recording. But it was really fun because he's got really good ideas. He is hilarious in the studio. It's really fun to hang out with him. But I don't know. I can't imagine. At this point, it'll be weird when I go do a record without him because I've done the last 3 with him, and it's
right.
It's so awesome. But I've learned so much from working with that guy. I really have.
What sort of notes does a guy like Chicken give you in the production process? Is he talking about like how your songs are structured, or the things that you should highlight, or like sort of rewriting things, or how does he sort of approach that?
He did at the beginning of Like a Cult. He told me that I'd really be missing a huge opportunity not to put Hail Satan in reverse before the song started. Which actually he did. He did say that to me, and then we ended up doing it. But no, that is not obviously the thing that he contributed. But
you know what? But that's probably a perfect anecdote for like the vision that I have of Tyson in my head.
So it was pretty good. But no, he really like lots of stuff. Like I'd send him songs, and he would come back with like this. Like I would send him a song with just like a stupid like 4/4 drum beat on it just to keep the time, and he'd send it back to me with like these crazy drum ideas, or he'd he'd be like, hey man, when you get to this part right here. And I also love working with Tyson because he'll say, we both aren't like classically trained with music, so he'll like be talking about something and be like, hey man, when you do that thingy right there, and I'll be like, oh yeah, the thing right there when it does the
right.
So that's like how we talk to each other. We sound like cavemen when we're talking to each other. No, but he, he'll be like listening and be like, hey, I'm hearing a minor chord right there. When you get to this chord, do the minor, or hold that one out. Like you get to that note, hold it out like twice as long as you were doing it, and like we'll throw a harmony on it. Right? So he's all over. He's got ideas with everything, but it's usually stuff like that. Like he just hears stuff and he'll like throw it at the wall, and most of it ends up sticking because it's got good ideas. So, yeah.
Where did you record? In San Diego?
The studio was actually in Orange County. So I recorded a single last year with a friend who was apprenticing at a really nice studio here in San Diego, and he needed to build up his portfolio. So they actually did that single Fall Apart with him, and it was for his portfolio. But anyways, he just finished his apprenticeship and then bought a studio of his own up in Orange County.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually funny. I guess it used to belong to Snoop Dogg. So like when you go in there, it's like there's like a giant mural of Snoop Dogg and like Warren G in the live room still. But
that's awesome.
Anyway, but it was cool. So we were Palm Trees was actually the first record in that studio for him. So and I can't remember what he's calling the studio now. I'm gonna kick myself later. But he did finally come up with a name for it. But yeah, he was great and did a really good job. And even when we sent all the files up to Scott Goodrich in Oakland, he did all the mixing. When we sent them to Scott, he was like, "Wow, this was recorded really well. Brandon did a really good job." So we're all really pumped on him. But yeah, it was cool. It was a good spot.
his intent to leave the Snoop Dogg Warren G picture up? Because I feel like you have to.
I think he should. I'm not sure if he was planning on leaving it forever, but I think that he should. It would be a shame to take it down.
If that's the kind of vibe that the studio had before, like, you have to keep the magic of the room, you know?
Yeah, we were like in there, like, I think about it, like, man, I wonder how many people or how many joints Snoop Dogg, or how many blunts Snoop Dogg's smoked inside this room right here.
how long it took to get the smell out.
Yeah, right.
Thanks for doing this. This is a fun chat. I don't like to keep people too long because I know, and people's attention spans, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But thanks for doing this. It's been a long time coming. For whatever reason, we never hooked up for Western settings, especially last time, which I really loved the last album. So I'm glad we got to talk now.
I really had a good time too, and I really appreciate Jason. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. People should. When does the actual physical album come out? The vinyl shortly?
Yeah, it should be. So actually, the vinyl was supposed to get in this week. I just talked to the guy who's pressing it, and I guess it was supposed to be we were doing clear vinyl with red splatter, and I guess because of the stuff that they make the clear vinyl out of, something about. He said that there's a shortage right now because it's the same material that they use in face masks. So I guess.
Okay.
So I talked to him today, and it looks like I'm actually going to switch the color to be opaque pink vinyl with like a red blob or a black blob in the middle.
Okay.
So anyways, long story short, it was supposed to be in like this week, and I was going to ship it. It'll probably be in like a week and a half to 2 weeks from now. It'll be in, and I'll ship it immediately then. So yeah. I was really hoping that it would be in it right on time and that it would go out. It never seems to work that way.
No, but I guess if your album is going to get pushed back, I guess having it pushed back so that they don't run out of like face masks for healthcare workers is, you know.
Right. Yes, it's a valid excuse. You can't argue with that.
Exactly. Hopefully everybody digs it. Hopefully you have to repress it in the future because it's a really good album. It's a fun album. It's not all the themes are necessarily fun, but the music behind it is fun, and so that kind of keeps your spirits up. So yeah, it's hopefully people dig it. I think they will. Though. Have you gotten a lot of good feedback from it so far? Do you listen?
Yeah, everybody's been really kind and said really nice things. So I haven't got a bad review or anything yet. So I'm like, which I'm waiting for because those are like the most fun reviews. I was talking to Brandon from Mercy Music the other day, and he posted like they just got their first bad review for their record, and I was talking to him about just how funny. Like I always love those reviews because I think it's hilarious. But anyways, no. But so far it's been all good feedback. So
as somebody who has done a shitload of like I stopped doing reviews because I just ran out of adjectives for, especially in punk rock. Like how many ways can you describe a drum beat? And like you know what I mean. So I sort of stopped doing reviews for that very reason. But I think it's weird when people review albums poorly for like a website that you're not making any money off. Like for Dying State, we don't get paid to do it. So why would I go out of my way to, if there's a band that has a small or even medium-sized following, why would I go out of my way to trash an album for a band that like I don't get anything out of it? It's more of like a vanity project for me to come up with like negative words I can use, I guess. But I don't get why people write negative reviews about smaller. It's not that it's punching down necessarily, but it's like why do you get out of that? I'll do positive ones. I'll spread the word on music that I like because I think people should listen to it. But if you don't like it, just skip it. There's enough other shit out there.
Yeah, find something positive to say in the world, right?
Yeah, really. There's enough shit out there. Like, listen to something else. I don't, you know.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Thanks for doing this. This was a fun chat. Hopefully 2021 you can actually get out on the road again. Either way. Would there be a plan to do, assuming things go well under a new administration, let's say, would there be a plan to take the solo stuff on the road with a band, or is that kind of down the road?
No, we're talking about it. I do want to. yeah, we need to go out with Chels again, and then I want to go out with this other stuff. And I've actually been talking to some friends about kind of people that I would like to play with and feeling people out and see if people are interested. So yeah, no, definitely, I'll be going out and doing shows. So yeah,
like not just in the West Coast.
yeah, I would love to go all over the place. I think we've been talking to. I think we're going to try to do like more. Like if we come to the East Coast, try to do like, split a tour with like a friend's band out on the East Coast, and like maybe we fly out and like share gear and do that side, and then vice versa, they can come out and jump in with us. Because the last few tours that we've done that were like U.S. like just going around the whole country in the van was pretty brutal. Yeah. There's just a lot of dead space in between the good spots. You know what I mean? Like you fly in, like I feel like you get to the East Coast and there's some good cities and places to play, and then like same like if you get up to like Chicago and like Minneapolis and all that, and you got the West Coast, but like, yeah. But there's like if you're just doing all of them in one shot, it's like so much dead space, and we personally had a really rough time doing that. So I think we're gonna try to do like more fly-in, smaller pocket stuff. But yes, to answer your question, I do want to be coming out to the East Coast and Midwest and all that stuff. Yeah.
Do you have random small markets that are not on the coast or Chicago that Western Settings actually did pretty well in? Like every now and then there's a band like Rebuilder is a band from up here that I'm friendly with, and they do really well.
There we go.
Oh.
Sorry, I just saw that it was like dark.
I know when we're doing it at this time, like the sun starts setting, and so. Yeah. But yeah, like Rebuilder does really well in Virginia Beach for whatever reason. Like they're a Boston band. They'll tour Northeast and go up to like Pouza Fest in Montreal and whatever. But for whatever reason, they do really well in like Virginia Beach. So did Western Settings have places like that sort of off the normal that you did well in?
Nothing. I feel like we just did good in the towns that were already really good. I'm not even sure if it was a Western Settings thing or more so it was the towns that have good communities built up in them, like are fun to go play. So I'm not sure which one it was. I think it's probably more the second thing than it is a Western Settings thing. Because now we were always, Chicago was always really great. Denver's been always really great. Seattle's always been really great. Pittsburgh was kind of a surprising one for me.
That would count.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. The first time I did Pittsburgh, it was terrible. It was a really rough show. Like, it was weird. And then the second time I went back, we met a really good group of people and ended up having a really good time. And I think that's the same. There was the same group we ended up hanging out with the next time we came through there as well. Anyways, I think it just really depends on the people that live in the place that you're playing.
Yeah, there are some cool people in Pittsburgh. That's a place that I don't think gets enough credit. I know the Homeless Gospel Choir and like his little crew of people. There's some cool people in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean that's how we met Chris, the guy who runs AF Records, and ended up putting out a record. But yeah, he's in Pittsburgh, and that's when we ended up meeting all them. Yeah.
I've never even been to Pittsburgh, let alone San Diego. So.
Pittsburgh's a pretty cool city, actually. I mean, I'm not from there, so I don't know. I'm sure there are complaints about it, just like anybody does that lives anywhere. But like even moving or driving into it almost like reminded me like Portland a little bit. When the first time seeing it, like, oh, it's cool. A lot of bridges and like industrial looking stuff, and it's pretty cool. But yeah,
I grew up a fan of their baseball team, and I never actually went to the city. I grew up a Pirates fan for whatever dopey reason.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed, 2021, latter half of 2021, we'll be able to catch up and do this in person.
I'd love to.